Yeah, so next up in the Autumn Internationals is New Zealand. This is going to be a game that should have happened. Everybody was hoping would happen 2 years ago when England were going through their winning run. Two big heavyweights come head to head, and this is going to be a real big test for England. It's a game that everybody wants to see. Everybody's always excited when the All Blacks come to town. The All Blacks would love nothing better to beating England at Twickenham on England's home soil, and it's going to be a real test. I mean, you just look at the teams that the players that they've got, and playing against New Zealand for me was always one of the ultimate tests. They had strength, from 1 to 22. It was a real challenge, and you knew if you weren't on your game, or if you gave silly penalties away, if you dropped balls, they would be on it within the blink of an eye, and they would turn that into points all the time. So you knew playing against them, look, if we don't match them, if we don't bring that intensity, if we don't put them under pressure, if we let them play, they will absolutely destroy you. And I think one of the key things where New Zealand have just been streets above every other team in World Rugby is their handling. When you look at the ball coming down the line, you can't always tell whether it's a forward or back. They're so interchangeable. The ball just comes back. You can get a front rower, just takes hold of the ball and just fires it down. Whereas with most other international teams, you just want the forwards out of the way. You just want the backs up in there so the ball comes out crisp and clean and quick. Whereas in New Zealand, it doesn't matter. They've got the handling skills, to keep that ball flowing, to get those offloads, and also just to punish you. Just, you see the likes of Sonny Bill Williams bump out the back, Bowden Barrett. They've just got all the skills, whether it's with hands or kicking. So, any time anybody comes up against New Zealand, you're going to be tested. Whether it's at the breakdown, whether it's in defence, whether it's been in attack, up in the air. So as a team, collectively, you have to perform. And New Zealand have been the most consistent teams, and for many years. And I remember just playing against the likes of Jonah Lomu. Dear me. A name you didn't want to see on the team sheet, too often, and he was one of those players that, just was a freak, in terms of size. He was built, cross between a back rower and a forward. He had that real power, but also he had the pace as well, out and out pace, just to burn opposite wingers. Never mind, anyone else. But he had a step, but that was brilliant. But because of the size of him, he didn't have to use it. But he would just traumatise teams. When you came to doing the analysis for New Zealand that week, his name would be the first up there, because you knew forwards or backs, everybody would have to be aware. You'd have to gang tackle him. You'd have to get 2, 3 and 4 in just to bring him down. And for New Zealand, that's just what they wanted, because then, if you did manage to bring him down, that would create space all over the other side of the field. So, whether it be New Zealand, whether it be Jonah Lomu or a Doug Howler, New Zealand have a reputation of just having out-and-out game breakers, match wingers. Rico Ioane, another one, just a young lad now that just keeps that tradition going of just great players. And whilst I've always been against the All Blacks, you just hear the stories of how they want to carry that tradition on. They want to hand that jersey over in a better place than they got it. And when you think of the names that they had beforehand, it's that is a real tough thing to do. So they know that they have to do well, otherwise there's just so many quality players that want to take hold of that jersey and never give it back again. So for me, whilst South Africa were the most physical team, New Zealand by far were the best team. Out and out, you knew across the board that you were going to be tested on that day, and if you could get a win against New Zealand, it would be something to be celebrated for a long time. I had the opportunity to play against them in Wellington, way back in the day, 2002, 2003, and we managed to beat New Zealand in Wellington. The first time England had done it, we went down to 13 men, and just that experience of doing it, knowing that we played against such a great team and managed to win, was one that most of us will always remember as one of England's greatest wins. So, if you can get a win against New Zealand, that it's been a very good day, and there's very few teams in World Rugby that can ever boast to have beaten New Zealand, and especially in New Zealand. So, yeah, England have got a very, very tough task ahead, but this will be the marker for them to see where they are with a year to go to the World Cup. This will be the real test, because if anybody's going to lift that trophy in 2019 in Japan, they have to make sure they beat New Zealand.